few would expect that the first animal to care for the newborn tiger cubs would be a lioness. Recently, a visitor captured a remarkable moment at the lion and tiger enclosure of Changlu Tourism and Leisure Expo Garden. Moments after the cubs were born, the lioness gently licked their bodies and cleaned their umbilical cords as if they were her own. According to the park, the African lions and Siberian tigers have been raised together since they were young, which is why the lioness instinctively helped the tigress care for her newborn cubs. It was later revealed that the tigress had given birth to 3 cubs. The last cub was the weakest of the litter. It also happened to be born near the lioness's resting area. Instead of ignoring the tiny newborn, the lioness immediately stepped in. She gently licked the cub clean and carefully cleaned its umbilical cord, as if it were one of her own. However, when the tigress returned to retrieve her cub, an unexpected confrontation broke out. The dominant male lion rushed forward and blocked her path. He appeared to believe that the tigress was trying to take the cub away from the lioness. Within moments, the misunderstanding escalated into a fierce fight between the tigress and the male lion. Just a few days earlier, the lioness had also given birth. Sadly, her cub was born prematurely and did not survive. So when the tigress returned to reclaim her cub, a tragic misunderstanding unfolded. The zoo staff decided to separate the tiger cub from the lioness, but the decision had an unexpected consequence. The lioness seemed to believe that her cub had been taken away. She became withdrawn, stopped eating as much, and showed clear signs of distress.
看看你的速度，来，看看你的速度。
好了好了，不偷你的娃，不偷，看看你的娃。
As for the tigress, losing her youngest cub changed her completely. She became extremely protective of her remaining cubs. No one was allowed to get close, not even the keepers who cared for her every day. Anyone approaching the enclosure was met with warning growls and a defensive stance as the grieving mother refused to take any chances.
真的有2个，我就看看，我就看一眼，你都不让看的吗？有2个叫声，真的有2个叫声。太小气了，你怎么可以这么小气？人与虎之间的信任怎么就没了呢？妈妈！
The 2 remaining tiger cubs were lovingly cared for by their mother. Under her protection, they grew stronger with each passing day. But even as she watched them grow, there was still a quiet sadness in the tigress's eyes. It was as if she had never stopped searching for the youngest cub she had lost.
No, 不凶了，看我，你再奶凶来，哎。你能叼俩吗？哎，2个一起叼了吗？对，能叼起来吗？2个。往我这看，孩子，跟你，哎，就这表情。 不配合，你哪不配合？你那舌头都伸出来了。妈妈，睡着啦？我妈妈也睡着了。
那是哥哥，
哥哥肚子弟弟。
哥哥没有那么调皮，跟那个妹妹呢，不是一般的可爱啊。
等一下，我录视频。
像个小孩。
撒娇。
对呀、
撒娇。
真的像个小孩。
两只龙凤胎。对，这是尊宝的弟弟妹妹。好可爱啊，妈妈想偷走。
我也想偷走，你防住我，不让我偷，听你防住我。
要喝奶了，弟弟又饿了。
哥哥吧。
啊，哥哥。你跟他吐舌头，妈妈心都被萌化了。抱在怀里啊！天哪！
我这一次真的太称职了。
很妈妈
跟上一次完全不一样。
都抱着。
坐到手指头上去了，他做死都做不出来呢。
过来。不是让你过来的，不是让你过来，不是让你过来，不是让你过来。
他搂他妈妈了，哟。孩子，你是减肥了，但是你妈妈在揍你，我跟你说。你妈妈搂生气了，你妈妈一巴掌给你拍飞。
啊！咦
？As for the youngest tiger cub, it was finally separated from the lioness. Because it was born weak, the cub was placed in a temperature-controlled incubator for round-the-clock care. Every day, the keepers carefully fed it, monitored its health, and made sure it was growing stronger. With such dedicated care, the tiny cub slowly began to recover.
“来，我抱，肯定抱你，这次肯定抱你，不骗你。来嘛，来了肯定抱你，快来。”
By the time the youngest cub reached 3 months of age, its health had finally stabilized. The keepers decided it was time for a reunion with its mother, but the meeting did not go as they had hoped. The young tiger showed little interest in its mother or even its 2 siblings. Instead, it kept its distance, as if it no longer belonged to the tiger family it was born into.
好。哎，好漂亮，好漂亮。
Meanwhile, the zoo faced another challenge. The number of tigers and newborn tiger cubs at the park continued to grow, while there were only a few lions. After the earlier conflict, keeping lions and tigers together was no longer considered safe. Faced with this situation, the keepers knew they had to find a new solution, one that would work for both species.
这个货在打呼噜，这真打呼噜了。
The keepers eventually made a bold decision. They introduced the young tiger to the lion enclosure. What happened next amazed everyone. The little tiger blended into the pride with surprising ease, as if this had always been its true family. It ran, played, and grew up happily alongside the young lions, showing no fear or hesitation. Even more surprisingly, the lions fully accepted the young tiger as one of their own. The cub quickly became part of the pride and was never treated like an outsider. As it grew more playful, it even tried to persuade the young lions to sneak out through a window and explore together, turning every day into a new adventure. The foster lioness never stopped caring for the young tiger. Ever since it joined the pride, she seemed happier and more energetic. Whenever the little tiger looked lonely or bored, she would find an old tire and roll it over for the cub to play with. Watching them together, it was hard to believe they belonged to 2 different species. As the young tiger grew bigger, it behaved more and more like the lions around it. It would often stand beside the adult male lions, roaring toward the neighboring tiger enclosure, as if defending the pride's territory. To the lions, it was no longer an outsider. It had truly become a member of their family. Watching the young tiger fall asleep with its head resting against a lion was a heartwarming sight. It looked completely at ease, as if it had found the family it had always belonged to. Watching the young tiger now, it was impossible not to smile. It looked truly happy, surrounded by a family that had completely accepted it. Few would ever guess that it had been born into a different family. Perhaps this wasn't a coincidence after all. Perhaps it was fate that led the little tiger to the pride that would become its home. This story has also sparked plenty of debate. Some believe separating the cub from its biological mother was too cruel. Others argue that if lions and tigers had never been housed together in the first place, none of this would have happened. But looking at the young tiger today, happily growing up with the lions, what do you think? Was this a heartbreaking mistake or an unexpected second chance that gave the cub a new family? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. No one can say with certainty whether every decision made along the way was the right one. What began as a heartbreaking accident eventually became an extraordinary bond between two different species. The young tiger may have been born to a tigress, but it grew up surrounded by a pride of lions that accepted it as one of their own. Perhaps family is not always defined by blood, but by those who choose to protect, care for, and love you. If you were in the keeper's position, would you have made the same choice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible animal stories.
这不是你肉，哎呀，哎，在这吧，在这吧，当个饭桌。
中餐桌，这顿饭吃的没滋味了。
那药拿，快吃吧。来，不吃不行，吃，浪费我一个。